families are safe, and our communities are safe. That's where kind of where I want to go with it is our communities being safe. As far as Father's Day, I've not hid this, or it's been no secret that just June altogether has been a tough month for me. Just knowing that I was going to have to face Father's Day, and it being my first Father's Day without my father and my brother. I knew it was going to be tough, and it was. I mean, that's just if I'm being honest, it was a tough day for me. It was a tough weekend. I spoke at the Father's Day pledge at City Hall, and that was you know again it was just it was emotional. I thought a lot about my father, missed him a lot, and just kind of um, but
How did you prepare for
as
that, B?
for the Father's Day pledge,
Yeah.
I really looked at it from a standpoint of what I feel needed to be said as it related to fatherhood. Like, why is this pledge important? You know what I mean? Why are we? The fact that this is even a thing um, made me want to really say something of substance, something of value. And so, in preparation, I kind of approached it from the standpoint of what do I feel really needs to be said that's going to resonate with the community about fatherhood, and what resonated with me was kind of tying into Isaac's point, and that's why I kind of shifted gears to go to Father's Day. Was it's what I shared tied back into the violence of our community. Once upon a time, if something happened in our community, the you know the men would get together, the fathers would get together, and they would be walking the streets. You know what I mean, to make sure you know that our neighborhoods were safe. You know what I mean. It was we have always been a people of the village concept, and what I mean by that is we've always practiced that it takes a village to raise a child. So, and getting away from that and adopting this kind of westernized, you know, concept or version of family neighborhoods and dynamics where you know you stick to yourself. You don't say anything to my kid. I don't say anything to your kid. That's some westernized kind of ideology in our community. We in our culture, our ethnicity, our heritage has always been the village. So when you think about that village concept, when something happens, the men would get together, the fathers would get together, and they would be the ones walking and patrolling the streets and making sure that you know what I mean. They brought a semblance of unity and peace and calm to the whatever was going on, because it becomes hard to shoot and kill somebody who and have a relationship with. You know what I mean? If
And
you remember,
I think that's the key though, bro. Sorry to cut you off, but that's the key is that it's hard to shoot. And again, a lot of things happen because people do know each other, but I think that's also the key in terms of neighborhood. Like I know you. Like
well,
I know
knowing
I know
someone,
your people. We have a connection. Maybe our
that's
kids
the
played
difference.
together. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we shared some sort of moment or something like that. That's what I mean by not like, oh, I know so and so down the street. It's like, nah, we might go to the same church. We might know some of the same family members. That right there is excuse me, definitely helpful. When I moved into my neighborhood where I live at now, and it's quite ironic because two nights, it was 2 nights in a row I heard shooting. Now at first I was like, maybe that's just firecrackers because last summer they was going wild with the firecrackers. I was like, bro, come on. But this sounded different. It felt different. And I was like, I don't think that's firecrackers. You know what I'm saying? Talked to my neighbor about it, and my neighbor was like, yeah, those was gunshots. So like just thinking about that, man, I was like, I know here, like, we know each other. Like, my dad used to work with one of the neighbors. I used to go to school with the cousin. One person here breed dogs. Like this is we had something traumatic happen on our street, man. And when I tell you, folks that were in the area came outside, like we all came outside. You know what I'm saying? Like we helped the kids. Like people came and whatnot, and folks didn't go to work that day. Like it was what you're talking about. B is what happened here, and I think it's hard now. One, just think about the state of things, and y'all tell me, if I'm on the right track or not. Is that like, let's say we are out patrolling the street. Well, shoot, I've seen a few police cars like kind of coming down and just out of just pure training and just being a black man. First thing I'm thinking is like, well, okay, my license is good. You know what I'm saying? Let me make sure I didn't walk out the store with anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm already backpedaling in my mind. So if I was out doing that, man, like I'm thinking, well, shoot, they probably gonna try to pick me up because they thinking like I'm part of. Like, nah, I'm not part of the action. Like, bro, I live right here. Like, I'm just want to make sure that everybody's in the house. Folks are safe or whatnot. If we see something, we're calling 911 or whatever the case may be. But I think part of that comes to like just having that pride, man, for your neighborhood.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely got to be organized. But again, organizing, it's crazy how with much less technology available to them, how organized they could get in short periods of time, and how with the vast amount of technology that we have, we can't seem to do it. You know what I mean?
I mean, people know who's doing what. I mean, right? Let's just be honest. Like people know. Like if you especially like if you shoot in broad daylight, so ain't nobody saw this person or know what they look like, know the name of that person. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not snitching. Snitches is when both of y'all commit the crime and you telling on the other person. You just, you know what I'm saying? Like we just doing our civic duty, and I know it's not that easy and it's not that clean cut, but I mean, come on now. Like I could have easily, like for example, I could have easily, when I got done working in government, I could have easily just moved back to the suburbs. I could have moved back to the suburbs and I could have just been in a different environment. But nah, I chose to stay in the city. I was like, this is where I'm at. When I move, I'm going to move all together. But, this is my home. This is where I'm at. I enjoy the people that are around me. I'm sure they enjoy me and my kids. And, I think that this is it's a great neighborhood where we're staying at. You know what I'm saying? But
it's like what makes a neighborhood, right? What makes a neighborhood is the people. And the people looking out for each other, the people supporting each other, and that's what kind of creates a community. I think when we say, a lot of times when you hear about incidents that are happening, in the media, they say the Rochester community. It happened in a Rochester community. And that's not necessarily I think the right word to use. It happened in a certain area where people don't have that type of community, because there's pockets of the city where you can go and, the biggest issue that you have in your neighborhood is people walking through in the middle of the night trying to open up doors and, steal change out of your car. Right. One of the neighborhood that I live in, that's what I hear, the most. That's what happens outside of, being by the Lake Ave area. Obviously, there's a lot of cars going down, speeding. You get those, type of things.
Wi-Fi.
Right. Yeah. The Wi-Fi issues, too. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm in a really safe neighborhood because you got, people that are looking out for you. Like, I guess when I was gone, my next door neighbor actually, heard something, I heard some water, like, by my house. So apparently my kids left the hose on and it ended up exploding. God knows how much my water bill is going to be. I don't know how long it was on.
Did you hand out whoopings? Those are free.
I don't do that. I work with kids, man.
Okay.
But thank God that he was there to come in, turn it off. And then, even today, like I was home, like, I was just walking in the door, and then, he saw me come in, and then the Amazon truck pulled up, and, I came and I looked out at the front, the front stoop, and said, because that's usually where they drop it off. But I guess this time they dropped it at the side door. So you must have saw me walk up to the front. And then, since I didn't pick up the package, he came by, knocked on the door and said, hey, you got your packages on the side, right? Because, we're looking out for, people there that are kind of looking out for each other. And you don't have that everywhere, right? You just don't have that type of atmosphere everywhere. People don't get along. So when something happens in that neighborhood, you're probably not going to get a lot of cooperation. You're probably not going to get a lot of people coming forward. So ultimately, I think that's what you have to look for is really look for that community or look to build that community because it really doesn't exist everywhere, right? And I think that's the truth for some suburbs as well too, and other places, right? There's pockets that everybody kind of even if they don't get along, they're looking out for each other, and in a lot of places we don't necessarily have that. I grew up on Durnan Street, and like there was a lot of activity that went on that street. Keep it that way, but ultimately, I knew we could, rely on the neighbor across the street. Although they were doing what they were doing, like if somebody was in the neighborhood that wasn't supposed to be there, somebody was on that street that wasn't supposed to be there, you know what I mean? We're making sure that they're not going to be there too long, right? They're getting out of there. So, it's really just about, you creating that community and, being able to share information and talk to people and feel comfortable doing that. And, for whatever reasons, we don't necessarily have that everywhere in Rochester.
Yeah, that goes back to Balos. I think your original point about, about relationships and what you were talking about. And I think I know the neighborhoods that we live in, I would say, because of kind of where I sit, I would say we're more insulated. So it's not like, so we're like for example, in this context where the shootings happened, there were, I'm talking like 8 streets down. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like next street over, boom, it's right there. You know what I'm saying? We like tucked, in there. So I think, like you're saying, too, about the pockets. And I can tell you, man, even like, when I was living in the suburbs, you might not hear certain things, but it's a lot of activity that's happening, in the suburbs too, as well. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't always get reported. And I think a lot of that's by design. But, like people stealing and getting into fights, stabbings and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff doesn't always get the attention. And I guess, like you said, they say in the Rochester area, well, that could be what? That could be the city. That could be the 9 surrounding counties. That could be in Victor. You know what I'm saying? Like that could be anywhere. But when you say Rochester, the first thing people think of is right in the city, like right in the center. So
that's a good point. That because it's by design, and so the language that's used is always going to not only point to a specific area, but a specific people, right? You know what I mean? So it gets it's subconscious conditioning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That when someone says the Rochester community, you automatically thinks you go to thinking certain neighborhoods and what the people like that look like that live in those neighborhoods. But again, to Isaac's point, or to his statement, it's you create the neighborhood, but it's about the village concept. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is saying, okay, you look out for me, and then what that minimizes or negates is this idea, this concept that somehow we've adopted is, you all, people being all in your business and all that. Like man, listen,
you got social media, bro. Like you giving people your business. You feel me? Like
it's funny. It's funny because those be the main ones that be like, people all of them like, but got all their business on Facebook.
Yeah, you just said you went on a trip last week and you was doing X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? So
man,
you can't get mad because your neighbor was like, asking you questions and they in your business. Like you gonna post it on Facebook anyway. So you better off just telling the person like, yeah, this what, you know what I'm saying? Like I like my
they be like, listen, I can say whatever. This is what they'll tell you. I can post what I want. That's my social media page. But that's not for you to say anything about. That's because that's my business.
Right. Don't give you the right
I'm like,
comment. But everybody that is listening right now, you have the right to comment. So please leave a comment. You know what I mean? If you have a point or a perspective that you want to share, type it up in the comments, so we can make sure that we get your perspectives. We can talk about that as well, too.
So I think we can go into the next part of this conversation, which I think is perfect for us to transition to, is Father's Day has happened. We had a great time. My wife gave me a gold chain.
He been with Isaac. I don't you watch Saturday. Like he been like, yo, Brandy, let me tell you something, sis. I don't know if he asked for the gold chain or if you knew that he wanted one, but you hit the bullseye because this dude, he been ear to ear smiling since Saturday. We were talking on Saturday before the cultural therapy bro talk session. And shout out to Nate Smith. Speaking of which, cultural therapy, he invited us. You know what I mean, and we just had a good time doing that on Saturday.
That was a great event.
So, but we were talking right before we went live with that, and I was like, oh, so you looking forward to Father's Day? You know what I mean? Y'all got any plans? To do anything, get anything? He was like, well, actually, Brandy gave me my Father's Day gift early. I was like, a word. So I'm like, okay, what you got? So he go to reaching in his collar and he pull it out. And when I tell you, like the definition of black boy joy was all over Kareem's face. Like he just, it was priceless. But again, shout out to Brandy, sis. You know what I mean? Listen, you made his day. Look, he still got that.
It sounds like she made his whole year, man. He ain't gonna take that thing off.
I had to take it off a couple times. I don't sleep with it on, man. But
what about when you eat, man?
Nah, he was eating before we came on. See,
that's right.
So he had it on. So Shay, if you're watching, see, that's how you do. You eat, then you get on Bro Talk. You know what I mean? You eat, then we get on Bro Talk.
Hold on, man. For the record, I'm sweating because it's hot in the attic. That's why I'm sweating. I'm not sweating from eating. I had hot dogs, by the way. They was beef.
You can tell us anything because we're not there.
Yeah. Pause.
I got paused. Shout out to Shay.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Kareem eat and not sweat?
That's not true.
I think that was that one time. No, I didn't.
Yeah. So
y'all dirty. Y'all wrong.
So I'm just saying. So
yo, you can't use me as an experiment. I don't sign my name on a piece of paper, man. Come on now.
Yeah, man. I'm just saying.
So what's next for the dads, man? I think it's important for us to have this conversation, man. What's next for us? Because we get our one day, man, and we back. You know what I'm saying? I talked to my neighbor yesterday, and we was like, man, this the only day we get. You know what I mean? And when I say the only day we get, I'm talking in general. I'm not talking personally. But what's next for us? And Balalo, you already started the conversation about that village mentality, man, and for the fathers or for the men to be able to know what's going on in the neighborhood, get to know people, garner those relationships because it's going to be important. Something will happen on your street at some point. You live there long enough, something will pop off or something that, or somewhere around where you live, you know what I'm saying, is going to jump off. But let's just talk a little bit more about, like, currently I'm in a program. I'm working with young boys and young men, man. And when I tell you, the experience has been humbling and eye-opening. I didn't realize how much trauma, how much just hopelessness, man, I see in young boys and young teenagers. And for the ones that I do see hope in, that they either have some sort of father figure in their life or they have, their dad is present, You know what I'm saying? And that's just observation. But I mean, what's next for us? You know, how can we do better? How can we be better? You know, how can we continue to progress? I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Um, I mean, I'll take a stab at it first. Uh,
Of
so
course, there's no
I'll
right or
say,
wrong answer. You know,
well, hey,
and in the
I'll
comments too. You know, if you got something in the comments, please add. We
I'm gonna
definitely
tell
want
you
to hear
why.
from you.
I'm gonna tell you why I do think there is to some degree right and wrong answers, right?
Hmm.
Because
I mean, we can't do nothing.
um, well, exactly. So that would be
Yeah.
to do nothing would be a wrong answer, and whatever we've been doing clearly isn't the right answer because
Mm,
have you know what I mean? Have we really gotten the results that we you know what I mean that we need? So
mm,
with that in mind, I would say you know for me I think it's connecting um it's moving out of a siloed kind of space. You know what I mean? Um, you know, and let me preface what I'm gonna say with
well, you explained the silos already, so
yeah,
you.
but but just to kind of correlate an analogy, right?
Mm,
Um, and shout out to everyone that had something going on for Juneteenth and Father's Day weekend. Shout out to everybody,
mm,
right?
yeah.
But there were so many different things that um, everybody was spread so thin. You know what I mean? And then Rochester is only but so big,
Hmm.
and so you can't be at everything and you can't be everywhere. You know, and then like events hurt because not everybody's able to be at everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I think again to move out of that silo space, we have to come together and hey, we there's spaces in Rochester large enough to host everything that everyone wants to do, and we could do it together. You know what I mean? So um, we could have you know cultural therapy. You know what I mean going on at and again whether it was whether it be a Ganseter, there was a kickball tournament at LaGrange. You know what I mean? They had there was something there on Saturday. You know, there was an event at I believe at the Genesee Valley Park on yesterday for Father's Day. You know what I mean? Um, and again, I don't want to forget anybody or miss anybody. So I'm trying not to say any names of the organizers because it's not even about the organizers. It's just to state that there's so many things that we can do if we bring them all together. Right? Your thing can still be your thing, but we can have all of these things in one space. And if we have all these things in one space, now everybody wins, right? Because everybody's getting exposure, everybody's getting, the turnout, you know what I mean? Everybody's kind of having their space to do, you know what I mean, to be creative and do what it is that's in their heart to do and or that they're motivated and driven to do. So I think that for me is the next, you know one of the immediate next for me is how do we get everyone to come to the table to say, you know we have all of these different things going on, but if we bring them together, like I saw some Facebook footage of the Juneteenth in Buffalo. That thing was crazy. And I'm not saying again we didn't have wonderful Juneteenth stuff going on in Rochester. I'm saying like it was it's a different energy when you bring it all together. There's a
Concerted
So,
effort.
different
Yeah.
energy.
so I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said, B. And to play devil's advocate a little bit, but also to look at that a little bit differently. Yeah, it would be great. I think if everybody could come together and organize and put their brains together and create an amazing event that everybody can come to. One of the things I learned over the last couple years, and I'm just gonna be candid, working in the current role that I'm in now. When I came into the role, one of the challenges that I was immediately faced with was the fact that we were going from having a program that provided transportation for young people that were participating in our programs to, with budget deficits and, you know, everything that was going on then at that time, to not having the funds to be able to cover it. And, you know, the district couldn't cover it anymore. And with that happen, we immediately went from having hundreds of kids that were registered to a bare minimum of kids that could actually attend, because that one piece, that one thing, not having transportation, you know, was limiting their access to, you know, being able, the option of being able to get home. You know, parents couldn't pick them up, parents didn't have transportation, and so on and so forth. So, you know, and I say that to, you know, to tie back into the point that, you know, having multiple events is not necessarily a bad thing, right? You know, having them spread out and in different, you know, having them at different community centers where, you know, families can get to them and have access would be a good thing, you know, for those that wanted to participate, but couldn't necessarily get downtown or couldn't necessarily get to, you know, the east side of the city or the west side of the city. So I don't think having the variety is an issue. What I think it is an issue, though, is if people are doing events because knowing somebody else is doing an event. And I think petty stuff like that does happen, you know, within our community at times. I mean, all communities, I'm going to say that. But, you know, some people think that I can do it better. Like how many book bag drives have we had, you know, do we have every year, right? And I'm just, you know, there's one huge one that happens every single year. Shout out to Khadijah Yawn. You know, she does her thing, you know, every single year. Like, bar none, there's nobody that brings out, you know, more families, you know, to come together. Why wouldn't other people that are doing it try to partner and be able to serve more students? Or, you know, let's coordinate this so we can cover each area of the city to make sure everybody can come, you know, and have it. But people want to, you know, say, you know, I got to have my name on it. I got to put my name on it. And knowing Khadijah, like she's not that person. You know what I mean? She's always open and willing to collaborate. So, you know, I love that perspective and I love that mindset from her. But, you know, I think there's a lot of times, you know, people do things for, you know, I don't know if it's chasing clout, but to kind of put, you know, their name on it. And ultimately, why can't everybody, you know, kind of be highlighted? It doesn't have to be yours, right? You don't say this is something that I'm doing, you know, every year. Nah, let's work together. Let's collaborate. Let's figure out a way to make things happen. So, you know, sometimes having multiple events is a good thing, but again, you know, the reasoning behind it and the rationale behind it and the purpose behind it, I think is an important piece to take into consideration as well, too. So, yeah, like I said, I agree with you wholeheartedly, B. Like, the key word there, I think, is collaboration, and it's not necessarily having, you know, one event. It's just making sure that everything is connected and everything is tied in, and there's a common purpose, and there might be a common theme, you know. But, you know, making sure that everybody that wants to have access to it has access to it, and there's a lot of ways to make that happen, especially with the amount of resources that we have in this community. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you know, again, to your point, let's say. Now, again, my thought was, and this is not putting anybody on the spot or throwing anything out there, but, you know, we've got the Rochester Sports Complex, which used to be where the Rhinos played, right? That space is big enough to host a bunch of vendors, you know, a soccer tournament, flag football, whatever you'd want to do there. You could, you know what I mean? You could, you know, put a stage. You could have so much stuff going on there. That everyone could gather in that space. And again, you know, it could facilitate a lot of things. But like you said, if transportation is an issue, then sure, or, you know, we can have different things going on around the city in different spaces. But like you said, make sure they're not conflicting with each other. And then kind of back to the village thought process or mindset. If we know about these events that are going on, I'm not just necessarily I'm not just gonna take my kids. You get what I'm saying? I'm not just bringing my kids. I'm bringing, you know, the neighbors' kids if they want to go. I'm bringing my nieces and nephews. They want to roll. Listen, let's pile up. You know what I mean? Because again, that was going back to my message to the fathers. This is not, this is not just
you and your biological tribe thing. You know what I mean? When I
That's
say
the point,
fathers,
bro. That
you
is
know,
the biggest point right there.
like for me, when my brother passed away, I'm now not a dad of two. I'm a dad of seven. You know what I mean? And you know, my brother's five kids, man. There's nothing they can't ask me for that I'm not going to try to make happen, because I know if something had happened to me and it was you know, and the roles were reversed and I was no longer here, my
Mm-hmm.
brother would listen, go moon and to the moon and back if
Mm-hmm.
my kids needed it. You know what I'm saying? Without any hesitation. You know what I mean? That's just, you know. So we just have to say, listen, find the bandwidth within us to, you know, have enough love for our kids, and you know, for our kids to not get everything that they need from us, but for us to be also, you know, be able to extend that love, you know what I mean, to others. I don't know if y'all saw, did y'all see WandaVision? Did y'all watch WandaVision?
Yeah.
Did you see how she created, you know what I mean, that
Yeah.
world?
Mm-hmm.
And, and when she needed more space, she needed it to encompass more space.
Yeah.
She willed it out of herself
Yep.
that this world she created covered more space. You know what I mean? We
Mm-hmm.
gotta will it out of ourselves to be able to love as many of these young folks as we can. You know, whether again, whatever the dynamic is, you know what I mean. You know, if if dad is not around, dad is deceased
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, you know, man, just we need fathers to step up, you know what I mean, in the community. And I don't mean biological, I mean surrogate, I mean, you know, step, I mean, you know, mentors, big brothers. All of those are different hats that we wear as dads. And so, you know, we need to you know, put those hats on and wear them, you know, as much as we need to for these, you know what I mean, these young people in this community, so that way none of the youth in our community are lacking.
You know, you just made me think about Father Abraham, and there's that point in the scripture where it talks about, you know, where God is telling him that he will become a father to many nations. And I thought about that just now, and I was like, yeah, you know, it's talking about like how his seed will begat his seed and begat his seed. But you know, the other part of that too is who he was, the way that he carried himself, in the lessons. Those things get passed down from son to son to son, right? So we think about us, and we think about the fact that so we have our own biological children, and just think of how many children we can touch just by saying hello, how you doing, you know, how your grades looking, you know, what are you looking to do this summer, helping to provide opportunity, how long, you know, how far those things can go, and how they can literally change the trajectory of a son or daughter, man, like just by doing that. And so back to the point of like organization, that doesn't take any organization. It doesn't even take a Facebook status. All it takes is if you walk out of your house, your apartment, your condo, whatever, and you see young people that are just kind of hanging out. If you say, you know, hey, what's up? You know, what's going on? How you doing? You know, like something like that, to where one, they feel like they're seen. Two, they're heard. You know what I'm saying? They speak back to you. But and even if they don't, it's fine, just knowing that presence is there. And then the other part of that is the consistency. So they know when they see Mr. Balel or they see Mr. Isaac, they know he gonna say something to him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I think that's the point we got. That's the point that's gonna help to build, heal, you know, the village that we're talking about, and just really people just knowing that like so and so, you know, has their best intentions for me.
So what do you say to the uh I don't know, I'm just about to get controversial with it, right? So what do you say to the deadbeat father, or the deadbeat, or you know, the dude out there, you know, on the street, with the gun, or the people that ain't doing anything good within the community, man. Like what's the message to those brothers, and how do we get them to realize, which I think might be beating a dead horse, but realize like the things that they're doing, the image that they're showing isn't a positive one, and it's not going to benefit the next generation that's coming through, man. Like what's the message for them?
The message, I think the message begins with "I love you." You know what I mean? That's that's the beginning and the ending of it, right? So because here's the thing, right? I am hard pressed to believe that somebody will trap for the sake of knowing the risk associated with it, right? Knowing the risk associated with that lifestyle. You're not doing it just to do it. Like the money, you know what I'm saying? The money might be appealing, but it's not appealing enough knowing that the only reason I would do it would be for the risk of it. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there is the idea of being able to support and provide for myself and my family is big enough and significant enough on that I think that to me becomes the factor that will drive a person to say, as risky as this is, I will do it because it allows me to support and provide for my family in such a way that I otherwise would not be able to do it.
That's the why statement right there. That's the why. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. I think the what has to be, what do I say to this person? Oh, I love you. And I say that meaning it, because you know what I mean? I genuinely love our people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then understanding that, you know what I mean? Listen, what you do is what you do. And unless I present an option to you that is a viable alternative for you to not just not do what you're doing, but for you to feel like I can do it, right? And what has anyone done? Like, until you've done something long enough to believe that you're skillful enough at it that you could do it to support yourself, you don't know what you can do, right? Right. You don't know that if I try this, that I'll be skillful enough to do this and to be able to support myself doing it. So there is, you know what I mean? This becomes something. It is a trade like any other trade. Mm-hmm. We have to teach viable skills and give our youth the options, the alternatives to be able to adequately be able to support themselves and their families. And I think so as far as the deadbeat, I don't the biggest room in the world is room for improvement. So I don't approach it from the deadbeat standpoint. I think it takes it's that's like a low hanging fruit mentality. Like it's a simple one-to-one. Like, okay, somebody not taking care of their children. Okay, the easy answer, they deadbeat. And I'm not saying that's what you're implying. I'm saying, because I get where the question was coming from. Mm-hmm. I'm saying from the standpoint of if someone sees, a little person that looks like them, you know what I mean, or know that they made this little life, right? It is oftentimes easier to be absent than to see them every day, knowing that based upon the roles that we've internalized, especially as men, this role of and this understanding and the concept of I should be able to provide, care for, you know what I mean, and meet the needs for this life. When I am inadequately equipped to do that, it's easier on my conscience sometimes to be absent than to be constantly reminded every day that I am ill-equipped and ill-prepared to provide, care for, and take care of this, you know what I'm saying?
That's
this life, you know what I mean?
Just to add to your point, B, that's what I was telling her. What about the reasons why fathers aren't involved? That is one of the main reasons. Inadequacy. feelings of inadequacy that I can't. So like even fathers that are involved, and let's say they lose their job and they don't have no money coming in, and if they subscribe to the old school traditional, it's like, yo, my identity is based on my job or my work. So if I'm not doing that, then I ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then if their spouse feeds into that, then it's perpetuating a stereotype that's out there, and it's not, and that's where relationships come in healthy relationships, man, where that spouse, man, that in our case, that wife, man, be like, nah, man, you good, you got it, you are adequate. You know what I'm saying? And that goes into the point I want to make by love what you were saying, is that the other piece of that besides options is hope, man. Is hope. The fact that Bilal, having a number of siblings, was able to come up, you know what I'm saying, buy a home, have a car, have a business, being successful. Isaac having 100 kids, you know what I'm saying, budget his money really well, you know what I'm saying, got property, got a 401k, you know what I'm saying, like those, like that hope is important for them to be able to see, and for you to provide hope, because I believe that a deadbeat can easily come alive. You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask ask a question kind of to support the point from this perspective, right? Have you or matter of fact, I want to touch because Donald's question kind of ties into it, right? Because Donald asked, he said, "What are our thoughts on why some men don't come forward to reach back to the youth?" Right. So I think that is a byproduct of feeling, again, that sense of inadequacy. Like, what do I have to offer? So I'm gonna approach.
We're not talking predators. We're not talking about predators.
Right?
Okay, yeah, like people that do that to manipulate. You know what I'm saying? We just talking healthy. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pose this question to kind of really help people understand where at least where I'm coming from this standpoint, right? Y'all smarter than me, right? Kareem and Isaac, y'all smarter than I am, but you know what I'm saying. But we all got some education, right? But y'all smarter than me. So have y'all had your children ask you to help them with some homework in this whole Common Core curriculum?
Yeah, I knew all of it.
Well, hey, see, I told you, Isaac, you smarter than me, so you know what I
mean. Now, I've posted many of my daughter's questions, 3rd grade, 4th grade math questions on Facebook for help. So yeah, absolutely.
So again, 3rd and 4th grade, like the game show was, are you smarter than the 5th grader? And
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I was like, man, listen, yo, you got to take me back to 3rd grade, because this Common Core math, these tree diagrams, I'm like, what is all this, man? I know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Man, what are these diagrams that they want you to, you know what I mean? These different methods that they want you to use to arrive at. I'm like, listen, if you asking me what is this number multiplied by this number, I can tell you the answer to that. I can't tell, you know what I mean? My point is simply, if as intelligent folks, you know what I'm saying, educated folks, we struggle and feel inadequate to help, you know what I'm saying, our 3rd and 4th grade children with homework. What does the parent who has internalized the message, the external message, that they are intelligent or educated because they don't have a certain level of education, or they didn't, get past a certain grade in high school, or whatever the case is. So what is the message that they're already internally struggling with? And then now how do they say, okay, I have something to offer to somebody?
I mean, that's imposter syndrome. I mean, you just explained imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
I think after that too, though, right? You know, and I understand that wholeheartedly, right? You know, your point, and you know where you're going, B, and you know what I'm thinking from that point is, okay, yeah. So there's that mental piece that you have to work through yourself, you know, to get yourself to a certain point. But at that point, it's time to perform, right? Because you know it's the same thing. Like I don't know how to do something at work, right? So I need to figure this thing out, right? And once I got it, I need to execute. You know, so you know, at a certain time, like and I'm not gonna say excuses, but that rationale has to go by the wayside too. Because if you spend your whole child's childhood going through that process, and I understand that it's not easy, you know, an easy thing to work through, but you know, you have to recognize yourself as somebody that created this other person. Like it's time for me to take care of me so I can go and I can get back to my child. It's all about, you know, for me, you know, looking at that situation, it's all about the work that you're putting in. Because if you're not doing anything to make yourself better and get yourself in a better situation, if you're not showing that to, you know, your significant other or your baby mom or whatever that the situation is that, you know, led you to creating that child's life, then you're just not being a man, period. Right. You know, so, you know, I think, you know, I get it. And I understand that part of it. But at some point, you know, that light bulb has to go off. Something has to click, or you're going to live with that stigma forever, you know, because you let your whole child's your whole child's childhood go by and you weren't there for them.
Yo, Benny Siegel said it best. He said, get down and lay down.
I don't. Again, I told you y'all smarter than me, so I'm not even going to begin to try to figure out what that means.
It's, you know, from that movie. It was State Property.
Yeah, State Property.
Like, he was like, man, you get down. But I think what Ike is saying is that there has to come a point to where, I'll say it, Ike, we just stop with like well, I can't do this because of this, or I can't do this because of that. And your reasons may very well be valid, and we understand, because there's things that we thought that we couldn't do, but yet we did them. You know what I'm saying?
But
overcame challenges.
So there's a duality there, right?
There is a duality.
So, and the duality is we have to understand exception versus rule, and then, you know what I mean. So, you know, we are part of the exception, whether we realize it or acknowledge it or accept it or not.
You mean
what I mean? We are part of the exception. You know what I mean? Rather than the rule.
And, so that's how we looked at then as the exception. So when do we become the rule?
But that's the problem. That's the problem. Like, people try to take exceptional experiences and then apply them to the rule, and they'll use an Isaac, a Kareem, you know what I mean, or maybe even a Bilal, right? You know what I mean? Because I'm not as exceptional as Isaac and Kareem, but they'll try to use, you know, Isaac or Kareem or Bilal and say, see, look at them, they're you know what I mean? They're doing well, they're thriving. Why can't you be like them?
Yeah, and I would say, you know, to your point, I would say that's a dumb thing to say to somebody that's going through that, right? You know what I mean? Because everybody responds to certain situations differently, right? You know, people respond to the same situation differently, right? And that's part of their makeup too. And yep, I'm glad you posted that, because I was going to go right back to Donald's comment. It says everybody has that come to Jesus moment, but not everybody responds to it, right? Like, we know when we're not doing something right, man. We know it. Like, you know, and we know it multiple times, because 21 years, you know, of a child's life, there's a lot of different opportunities, and there's a lot of different times that thought will come up. There's a lot of different opportunities for you to, you know, connect with that child in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying you got to be the world's greatest dad. I'm not saying that you got to be the, you know, you got to try to get back in your child's mother's life. I'm not saying that you have to be with that child every waking moment and try to give them everything that they would ever want and need, right? But ultimately, you got to make some steps and some progress. And buying a kid a pair of shoes, you know, once for Christmas, that ain't it, right? You know what I mean? Let
me stop. Let me just kind of throw this in there, right? I think what we have to do is we've got to say, if all you can do is that one pair of kicks on Christmas, start there.
That's
like
a
that.
start.
We can't we can't say that's not it. We got to say you got to start wherever you at.
What I'm saying is, it's not enough, because I'm not talking about the money. Y'all know me. I'm not paying $40 more than $40 for my kids either, right?
I get what you're saying. I'm saying what we'll do is we'll people will take messages and run with them. I'll give you a prime example. I said this on Saturday. I said one of the messages that we have to stop allowing people to speak into our sisters is that they don't need a man. We don't hear this message spread in any other community but ours. People will say, "Oh, you don't need a man. You don't need a man. You don't need a man. You can do this. You can do that." And they try to package that message as a message of independence, promoting independence. But really, it's a message of division, because if the nucleus of the home is that relationship between the two that come together to build a family, right? You know what I mean? So if that couple comes together, right? And the message that is constantly being spoken into that unit is, well, you don't need that person, you don't need that person, you don't need that person. The moment a situation arises where there's trouble, or there's an opportunity to to say, well, I need to do something different, or I want to do something different, it's going to cause a splintering effect, and it has caused a splintering effect. When they brought in social services, and I'm not saying social services are a bad thing. I'm saying that you take the help that is needed and you use it to elevate, right? You know what I mean? Lift as we climb, right? So if somebody's lifting you while you trying to get up yourself, it's gonna make it that much easier. But when someone is saying, okay, hey, how about they start lifting you up halfway and they let go, you're gonna fall. And that's what's happened in our community. These social services came in, they said, well, we'll give you food stamps.
They became the man of the house. That's what happened.
And here's the thing, and said that if there is an able-bodied man in this house,
we're cutting it off.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that message of division has been packaged as one of independence, but it's not really one of independence. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Because that message has damaged our community. And again, I'm all for independence. You know what I mean? My wife has a level of intellect and autonomy. She's smarter than I am. I'm somewhere low on the totem pole in terms of, you know what I mean? My wife is brilliant. You know what I mean? Has a job that she's excellent at. You know what I mean? She's just, in general, probably the only thing I do better than my wife is like sports or something. That's probably about the only thing, and that, you know what I mean, I probably got her in sports, but she excels at what she does. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that, you know what I mean, that she's got to be subservient to me. I'm saying, there has to be a level of understanding that, you know what I mean, between us, that I'm not trying to exist without her, and she's not trying to to just do it all and be great without me. That is the dynamic. So yes, we have everyone. I think everyone has a coming to Jesus moment, but I think the difference is when people have not had the support and internalize the messages of being able to lift as they're being helped out of the situations. There's not enough support. This whole bootstrap mentality stuff is garbage, and we got to get it out of our community because we've never thrived off of this. We've never existed on the bootstrap mentality. It's always been collective economics and again about the village. So it's lifting as we climb. It's supporting one another. It's helping one another. That we've been so damaged that that it looks like people just don't want to do nothing or have excuses. But it's really we have not had people haven't had the support they needed to help lift themselves up out of situations.
I'm gonna say this again because I think it has to be said is that there are currently opportunities for people to be able to talk to somebody professionally to unpack some of the traumatic things that have happened in childhood, in adulthood, our brothers and sisters coming out of the incarceration system. There's traumatic things that have happened at school, family. You know what I'm saying? Like those resources are here now more than ever, and we need to take advantage of those resources. One thing that we can say about Rochester, particularly, and I can't talk about any other city. We got a ton of resources here in the city. A ton.
What if you don't? What if you're not aware of those resources, how to navigate those systems, and then you go to an agency, and they you're asking for help, and they say you need to go to this person, go to that person, go to this person. Like they give you all these runarounds, and so you find yourself like, man, I came here excited about help that I thought I was gonna get, and I'm seeing it seems like nothing but dead ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do
we got to hold our people accountable, right? So that's where, like,
you got to leave the country. Like you got, I say that jokingly, but I'm serious, right?
Bro.
There's some countries you can go to, like you can be a visitor in this country. I think I was reading this in the book. A visitor in this country. I can't remember the country it was, right? But the lady was there for work. She was supposed to be there for, I think, a total of like 6 months for work. When she got there, she found out she had cancer, right? She got a recommendation of a hospital to go to, and she had all these questions about, well, I'm working here, I'm on a visa, I don't have insurance, where do I go? The lady gave her a number. She called the number, she went. The people picked her up. They picked the phone. They said, come in, on this day for an appointment, which was like the next day, right? She came in, she had the appointment, and, they said, well, we need to, you need to have a mammogram or whatever like that. So in the United States, you know what that process is like, right? You got to reschedule it with somebody else. What they did is they walked her into another room, and then they did a mammogram. Like, they have these resources that are there, and they have, everything set up. By the time she left the doctor's office, she had a treatment plan and everything ready to go. I think sometimes we just make things a lot more difficult than they have to be, in the United States, based on the systems that we have in place. So yeah, you're absolutely right with that point, B, because you can get the runaround, and you can get frustrated, trying to figure out, I made that, I had that come to Jesus moment. I identify, what's, where some of my shortcomings are, and I want to make it work. But then, we don't have the support to, the systems to support us, so it is tough, man, for some people.
Have either of you ever gone somewhere and had somebody who, again, they only based upon just your outer appearance,
they thought a certain way about you and gave you the
handled you a certain way
treatment,
and then you had to advocate for yourself, right?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Because you have the wherewithal and the skill set to do it, you did so. What happens to our brothers and sisters who do not have the ability to articulate themselves on the level of a Kareem or an Isaac, you know what I mean, who can advocate for themselves, who haven't been so kind of beat down from negative messaging, you know what I mean? Oh, you ain't gonna be nothing because your daddy wasn't nothing. You just like your daddy, you're sorry daddy, or you're sorry mom. You know what I mean? Like what happens to our brothers and sisters who've internalized those messages?
The village. I mean, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? I mean,
no, but I'm saying, like, what I'm saying is, in that moment though, how damaging that is to them. That moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's why it's so important for us to understand that, again, that very point of the need for that village. Yo, Isaac, Kareem, Balel, can one of y'all go with me? I got an appointment, so-and-so, you know what I mean? And sometimes, like, my doctor will say things that I don't understand, but I'm afraid to say I don't understand. So can you go with me to this appointment so that way, you know, if something is said and I don't quite understand it, you can break it down for me. Explain. That's why the village is important. We have the highest infant mortality rate amongst all communities because we don't get the prenatal care that we should get. We don't get the level of care in general that other communities get, and as such, and as a result, you know what I mean. You know, a lot of it is due to the fact that, you know, we don't get the support, the advocacy. You know what I mean. But again, that's why it's so important to have, you know, the village intact, because, you know, you won't go into a doctor's office and they won't intentionally talk over your head or use language that you don't, you know what I mean? You know, like my aunt is a nurse, right? And my sister's a nurse too. You know, if you go to the doctor's office, you go to certain places, they hate when you, if they don't like to find out that somebody's with you that's a nurse. My wife sold cars for a number of years. I would not go into a car dealership without her. She's my weapon. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing that they're going to be able to say that she won't understand, because she talks the talk. She talks their language. So they couldn't try to run something past me. You know what I mean? I'm using myself for example. You know, they couldn't try to run something past me that she wouldn't get. You know what I mean? So now she's sitting there like we be killing them too. We go and we sitting there, we quiet, and she, you know, and they let them talk, they talk, and then by the time she start talking, they're like, oh man, like, yo, I gotta come all the way correct. You know what I'm saying? Same thing when I, you know, I'm trying, I can't remember who it was in the hospital, but my sister was there, and man, she got to asking certain questions, and it was like, oh man, we know we have to provide a certain level of care to this person, because and they hate it because they think, oh, you trying to come in there like you know more, you got all the answers. No, that's not it. It's you're just not going to be able to provide a low level of care, you know what I mean, to this person, because we have the advocacy. You know what I mean? And that's again, that's why the village is so important. And I'm just, and that's, to me, again, I just want to say that's what's next for me. That's what it's about, is doing things collectively, just getting out of silos collectively, because it's all about the village.
Great. I think that's a great way to end it right there, man. Let's look at the comments before we go. This is a great discussion. We've had some participation. So
what y'all see?
Well, first of all, I see Brother Ray. Shout out to him. Mad love for Ray. Love you, brother, man. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
Sir. Right,
paving the way for the young ones and for the old ones. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely appreciate him and what his folks are doing. You know what I'm saying? Him and Tremaine and Donald. We'll get Donald a separate one. And to all the others that are involved with my brother's keeper, we appreciate you. And we got Donald, shot hunter. You know what I'm saying, man? Definitely a great
shout out to Donald, man, for coming out to cultural therapy and supporting Bro Talk on Saturday.
Brought the whole family out.
Yeah, brought his beautiful wife and children, man. Yeah. Listen, brother, man, you're a blessing to us.
For sure.
Hey, Donald, you got to go for that boy, man.
Yeah.
I got it on number 4, man. You got this.
End up like Isaac if you want to.
Yeah.
I told you, in 10 months, Isaac got number 5 coming.
No, sir.
Yo, I want to shout out my man from a long time ago, man. It's my boy, Dwight John. I think this is Junior. Yeah, Dwight Johnson Jr., man. That's Frat from Sigo.
Yes, sir. Sigo in the building.
What's up, man? Shout out to Dwight, man. He on a whole different time zone. So I definitely appreciate you, brother. Yeah, we had some good times, man. Oswego. I ain't gonna name all the places.
Listen.
Who else we got on here?
Easy,
right? We got Terrence, who was on with us today. We appreciate you, brother, for being on. Sir. Y'all see anybody else?
What's Terrence's last name?
German.
Okay. Okay, yeah, man. That's my guy T-Man. T-Man, shout out to T-Man. Yeah.
But Lo got a name
Good
for
brother right
everybody.
there.
Everybody, man.
Listen, that's not my name. That's yo. Anybody that know him will tell you. You can put it in the comments. Listen, that's how we know him, T-Man.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I got a quick shout out to my dad who was in the comments too. He's always a faithful listener as well too. So happy Father's Day, to him. And I had a good time, being able to hang out with him after I got back from North Carolina as well too. So every time we get together, I learn something new about his childhood and how he grew up. So it's always a pleasure to have those conversations. And sorry they made you cook, Dad, but the food was great though. Good job.
Wow.
Hey man, old school dads, man. Listen, they tell you stuff in increments, bro. Like when you were a kid, you know nothing. All you know is that's dad, and then as you get older, they just start telling you stuff. You be like, wait, what?
I had to do that.
Yeah, that was.
Shout out to the old school dads, yo. They listen, man. You get older, then they start telling you stuff. When you young, nah.
Yeah, man.
None of that information. It's for our own good, though. It's for our own good.
Definitely.
We walk around telling our friends, like, you know what my daddy did?
Yeah, man. Listen. Yeah, definitely shout out to shout out to you and Isaac, man. Happy Father's Day to you, brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, man.
And happy Father's Day to both your dads, man. Again, they raised some phenomenal men. And if I don't know if we got any more comments or anything, but of course, shouts out to our wives who we, every week we say we couldn't do this without y'all. We don't want to do this without y'all. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And man, I'm this is gonna be my last thing, and it's just, man, happy Father's Day to my dad and my brother. I love y'all. I miss y'all. You know what I mean? I hope, and I hope to make y'all proud.
Absolutely.
Brothers.
It's a perfect place to sign off.
Peace out. One love.
Yes, sir.
Later.